Hi everyone, Tracy here from Seedflinger, where we fling seeds of love, joy, peace, truth, enlightenment, and empowerment. Today's topic is boundaries, the misunderstandings around boundaries and fear. The first misperception or misunderstanding I want to share with you about boundaries is that it somehow saves us or protects us, and that's not true. The reason that it's not true is because we can't control other people. And so if we set a boundary expecting them to conform to our boundary, we're just going to set ourselves up for disappointment. Let's say that somebody is yelling or screaming at me, and I set up a boundary and I say, I am not going to talk to you while you're screaming at me. So the boundary appears to be at them to stop screaming. Since I can't control other people, I can't force them or stop them from screaming at me. It's important to know that a boundary isn't for other people, although it's a way to communicate truth or my truth, and we need courage to do that. It's for one's own self to live up to their own boundaries. Of course, the reason why I would want, or anyone would want, somebody to stop screaming at them is because it's stirring up stress inside of our bodies, inside of our energy, and we think that if they just stop screaming, then we won't be stressed. The real source of stress is actually internal. It is not external, as people would like to believe. Being triggered simply means something outside myself triggered that which was already in me. The first thing to understand about boundaries is we usually set them up to stop our own stress from coming up. It is my responsibility to honor my own boundary. And in this particular case, I would walk away from someone if they were screaming at me. It's my boundary and it's my responsibility to honor that boundary. So if I'm feeling stressed when someone's screaming at me, then I walk away. And once we realize that our boundaries or speaking our truth are our responsibility, then we no longer need to feel disappointment when someone doesn't honor them. We innocently or ignorantly spend a lot of time trying to convince other people what our truth is and what our boundaries are. And then we expect them to live up to our boundaries, and it's controlling to try to tell someone how to live, and vice versa. If somebody were to tell you all the boundaries that they have, and then you have to live up to their expectations, it's just a lot of confusion. It's so much easier when we understand that our boundaries are for us, and that it's our responsibility to live up to our own boundaries, instead of knowing what everyone else's boundaries are and trying to live up to theirs. Another misperception that comes from this belief around boundaries is that we are responsible for other people's feelings. We're not responsible for their feelings because we can't think their thoughts, and thoughts actually cause feelings. We're only responsible for our feelings. And to live an integrous life, if you're a responsible, integrous person, then you're going to talk to people in a way by honoring the golden rule in which you would want to be talked to. And most of the time that excludes name-calling or defamation of character, falsely accusing someone when we haven't even done any research to find out the truth of the matter. One of the problems that we have in society because of our ignorance, or, the innocence of, it's like the innocence of the child. It believes everything it hears, and it doesn't investigate it because it just automatically believes it. The downside of our own innocence is we can be duped. We are dealing with people that are very selfish and self-centered and have agendas. If they can get you on board to believe what they're believing, then you'll buy their product or whatever. So we are living in a time where the upheaval, or what's coming up because of this coronavirus, is most people don't trust what they're hearing, and it's not fact-based. They aren't showing us how they did the tests, and are the tests inconclusive. If they even come up with a vaccine, is it 100% safe? How are they diagnosing people that are dying from the coronavirus? Is it other morbidities that they died from, and how are they forming the conclusion and show us the facts? And people, and for good reason, have been lied to and manipulated and coerced through the media and other people, and we just pass on information. And most of the time we don't have the ability to actually research what they're telling, so we're dependent on them to tell us, the truth by not omitting or exaggerating, and that just hasn't happened in our society, so we're suspicious, and we should be. When we're on a spiritual journey, we understand that when we push against something or we resist, we feel stress, we feel the uncomfortableness of that. And so to allow people to be how they are and say what they are without fighting them, then we are able to tap into power, which is a very strong energy field as compared to force, where we try to force people to conform. That's the old way. So according to my truth, when I hear something on the news, I will research it further, and I can tell that they omitted things or they exaggerated, and I can just see it right off the bat, because truth is always not just one position, but it's right-brained. The right brain sees in wholes. The right brain sees the big picture and how it affects other people. Another way to look at boundaries is if somebody asks me to come over in 20 minutes. I'm unable to do that, and I said I will be able to be there in 30 minutes. It's really not negotiable, and that doesn't mean I'm closed about it. It just means if they say be here in 20 minutes, that doesn't work for me. I say I'll be there in 30. That is a boundary, but it's nothing I needed their permission with, so I don't need their consent. If they decide that they don't want me to come in 30 minutes, then they can tell me don't show. And then I honor their request and I don't show. But I don't have to feel bad or guilty about it. So boundaries are, I'm not really sure I like that word, is really speaking one's truth and saying it from a place of calmness where I don't need anyone to agree. Which moves us into our next topic, which is fear. This is a huge topic. I could talk a lot about fear because it runs most of people's lives. And I'm talking about the psychological effect of fear. And it shows up in stress and anticipation in a negative way. Fear can be anything from extreme terror to a mild frustration. Anger is also fear because something's been threatened. I think these two topics go hand in hand because when we're able to speak our truth, we have moved out of fear. Like if you take the example of the masks and everything, and there's a lot of people shouting at other people because they don't have masks on and stuff. And if someone is in fear of the coronavirus, or they have a compromised immune system, or they care about someone else, it's really their responsibility to wear a mask, their responsibility to wear gloves, and not to insist that other people wear masks and gloves. That is around, they're saying they have a boundary. The boundary is nobody wants to get sick. Trying to get everyone on board with conforming to their boundary is just going to create counterforce, because we're not dictators. We're not the boss of other people. We hope that people are responsible enough to take care of their own health and their own protection without having to control other people. I mean, who wants to live with a bunch of dictators telling people how they should live? So fear has to be transcended in each person. And it definitely goes hand in hand with boundaries, because when we have a misperception about it, we think that we have to control out there when what's really going on is there's stress and insecurity and the unsafety of what's going on inside. A spiritual view of pushing against or resisting fear is to choose the opposite, which is peace. So instead of fighting against fear, choose peace. Fear of danger runs most of the world. Fear of enemies, old age, death, rejection, along with a multitude of social fears. It's a basic motivator in the lives of most people. The proliferation of fears is as limitless as the human imagination. Once one focuses on fear, the endless fearful events of the world feed it. Fear becomes an obsessive and may take any form. Fear of loss of a relationship leads to jealousy and a chronically high stress level. Fearful thinking can balloon into paranoia or generate neurotic defensive structures. It is contagious, and it can become a dominant social trend. Fear limits growth of the personality and leads to inhibition. Because it takes energy to rise above fear, the oppressed are unable to reach a higher level without assistance. Fear in itself creates dependency on others. One of the cures for fear, actually the cure for fear, is to align oneself with the energy of God. What does God have to say about fear? I did not give you a spirit of fear, which means that when you align with that which is not fear, which is safety and security, then fear is alleviated. But just like a boundary where we have the responsibility of choosing within our mind that which is fearful or that which is safe, and it's all around belief. So our prayers are answered depending upon our belief. Of course, if we believe that God is punitive and punishing, it's really our own guilt being triggered. But if we believe that God is safe and loving and just, it's easy to align to that energy field. The funny thing about beliefs is they are thoughts, and we presume that they are mine. Therefore, they have an identity to them, and they become very personal. It's just information that we mistook for being me. So they are just thoughts. They're just boogeymen. They, in and of themselves, do not have the capacity to create fear unless we give them power. But remember, you're the one that gives thought power. You're the one that gives the thought belief. And a belief is a thought that you keep thinking until it forms a momentum that appears to be true. So let's do a little recap. A boundary is actually the courage to speak your truth. But it's up to you to honor your own truth. It's not for anyone else. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles in the world. It's contagious, and yes, it's a virus. And in order to align with God, source energy, which is love, peace, joy, empowerment, and enlightenment, one first has to believe that it's possible. And when one does, fear is removed. So we don't have to fight against or start a war with fear. We simply choose that which is love. And we do it with the mind. And the mind turns into beliefs, and the beliefs create actions, and then we become love. We become peace. We have embodied that. So we have become like God. The saying that the universe abhors a vacuum simply means that instead of sticking our head in the sand and avoiding fear, we will consciously choose that which brings peace, and we do it in the mind, not just hoping that things will just go away, because this fear lives inside all of us. It's part of our transformation, our ascension into the awakened state of being conscious and deliberately choosing that which we wish to feel, which is safety, security, love, peace, joy, health, abundance. Those are really what we're wanting above all. In closing, I want to offer what I wrote in Chapter 8 of Crystal Clear, titled Mastery. The mastery of love is aligning with Source. Source always loves and never fails. Mastery of this life is aligning with the one power that never fails. The separation we felt in the beginning of our quest has vanished, along with the old sense of me. To master our life is not a title or an achievement. It is an undoing, a letting go of the false self, so the real self can take its place. It is like the ruthless master leaves, and in its place is mercy, kindness, love, joy, fearlessness, replaced by a loving master. It feels like me, yet it's not the old me, the one self that exists in all beings. It is the same self. Yourself is not different than myself. Ego seems different, but the self is the same in all beings. It is the one true self. Be the master of your emotions. Do not use or try to manipulate others. Be direct but kind. Align to the power of Source, and when you feel peace in your life predominantly, you will know for sure that God has taken up residency. Peace to you. May you find the Christ within and know that you and God are one, the one.